that's one of those things that until uh, our largest sale has been 1.1 million. Um, Now we right now have sellers who carry close to $4 million worth of properties in their
Assets.
portfolio that we're selling. But it really is one of those things that when you've got both buyer and seller that are of that same mindset, it is a different ballgame. And as agents, and the agents will know if you're not used to that kind of
Clientele.
price. Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you're not getting that clientele from Zillow. You know?
No, no. The actual, where it was being hosted, it was a spec home in, what was the name of it? I have it in my phone. I'm getting so familiar with the area.
Uh-huh.
It was listed for 2.9. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. You know, and they can take longer to close though too. So they're not I mean, even though they're cash, there's so much more that goes on. Some of them can close really quicker, but I mean, I know our big one, it took about 60 days. So
He was saying back in '09 or '08, the inventory that was available, I mean, it's really, your supply and demand. Your inventory that was available back then was 900, 9,000? That sound about right?
for all homes?
For all
Yeah.
homes in Austin. And then he said, put in perspective, now you're at 13,000. So there's a lot more inventory out there than before.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to know those. I mean, you can do that with the MLS, right? You can filter it to see
Oh,
how
absolutely. Basically, you could just, if you wanted to do it for the whole MLS, you just click the active box and it'll pull up all of the actives for every home in the MLS. If you wanted to filter it to just Austin or Travis County or something like that. But we've got a lot more people coming here to invest because even, our $1 million properties here are equated to probably $4 and $5 million properties in California and New York and Michigan and all of those type of places.
Oh, yeah. Hollywood alone, there's just Malibu and
Malibu is
what's the other one? Bel Air.
Mhm.
I was looking at a property at Bel Air, $250 million listing. I should send you the link. You'd be like,
yeah.
He actually says my $250 million listing. I mean, at that point, he's marketing to billionaires, not really millionaires. A billionaire is not gonna be able to afford that.
No, and your list of clientele is now international.
Right.
Instead of local or things like that. I mean, 250 million. Even alone, if you only did 0.5% on the commission, for most of us, that would be 2 or 3 years worth of.
That commission check for most of us you'd be done.
Yeah.
You'd be done.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just hard to put your bike around.
Absolutely. So,
but there must be realtors that's all they do is focus on these big listings, and that's where they put all their time and energy on because that's like the lottery, the jackpot. Right?
Yeah. And that's what would scare me. We don't play the lottery, so I don't have a chance unless I find a card on the street that was the winner. But like the one who just did the 500 million. Or no, it was close to $1 billion. The last big one was close to $1 billion for the lottery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for the lottery.
Right.
And so I think breaking it down after taxes, they got like 450 million, something like that. And the
Was it
thing with
really?
that is that I just look at that and go, to know, and it was a teacher who won it, to know that you one day are making 60 grand a year, if that, as a teacher, to having that much wealth, that would freak me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope that I would be able to not spend it as if you had it. Because they said within 5 years, statistics show that most lottery winners are bankrupt.
Well, it's something that we can't ever really grasp, but it's the outside pressure. Like, I mean, I can't imagine having, this is you and having all that pressure and people around you that, you know, that you are associate yourself with that
Yeah.
are, and you're just in this different level and you don't have billionaires or millionaires in your life, you know, so to kind of hang out with them, so you're going to get all this pressure from loved ones. It can corrupt you. It can
Absolutely
damage you.
can. And when you go to, if you take Bold,
Yeah.
one of the pieces of homework during one of the weeks of Bold, and I think they give us 2 weeks to do the homework, is the first day they give you $1,000 and they say, by the end of that day, you have to spend that $1,000. Then the next day, you're actually given $2,000. And by the end of that day, you have to spend that $2,000. Then it's $4,000. Then it's $8,000, $16,000, $32,000, $64,000. And for 14 days straight, you have to keep doubling that. But at the end of every day, it has to be back down to zero. And it's talking about the mindset of the wealth that, because they said, you know, people aren't, it's not a matter of having the money that they're afraid of. It's that, you know, mindset of, if I had that money, what would I do with it? And so it was getting us thinking about.
Your financial thermostat.
Yeah. Thank you. But it did as the days went on, and I can't remember exactly. I think by the end of it, you were spending a couple of $100 million
Wow.
in it, and it was a fun exercise, but it was actually really harder the more that it got up there. I mean, I bought a B&B in Connecticut that was, you know, several $1 million, and just because, and I was also looking at, okay, I was going into websites with expensive furniture and this and that, and because you couldn't save it.
Reminds me of that movie. It's a comedy movie. I can't think of it off the top, but
Is it with Richard Pryor?
maybe he's taking over his dad's business, and to get all the money he has to spend $10 billion, and then he gets another like $30 billion is if he can spend it within 30 days or
Yeah,
something.
it's Richard Pryor, and one of his financial guys was stacking the money back. When he gets down, he thinks he spent all the money, and then his financial guy, because he couldn't tell anyone that he had to spend that money.
Right.
And he was actually stacking it into savings and things like that. So it came down to like the last day or so, and he was like, "Oh, but look what I did for you! I saved this over here." And he was like,
Right. And
"Wow."
wasn't the part that was the challenging part? He has to spend it, but the stipulation is you can't generate any money with it.
Right.
And that was his problem. Anything he bought, he ended up making more money
Mhm.
off. Like, ah, you know,
And all of us sit there and go, "Oh, to have that problem."
you know, right.
But,
right. Yeah. I have to watch that movie again. What was
yeah,
it called?
it's Richard Pryor, and I can't.
Pryor.
I would just Google it and see what it is. But
Mhm.
I remember that. But
I need that in my life
that
right now.
that financial thermostat for me was an eye opener, because
I can see
it was really simple to, you know, even when it was like 100,000 or 200,000, because it was like I'd buy a house, or I'd buy my children a house, or, you know, so you kind of got it. But then when it started getting into those millions and multi-million dollars, you were like, it's not like I can, you know, I'm not going to sit there and go, you know, I'm going to buy $100,000 homes. that's not gonna happen.
I think I made the mistake of looking at 10 billionaires, what they do, and the crazy life that they like to live for top 10 or billionaires. And I looked it up on YouTube, and it was just crazy. One of them like owned half of Malibu,
Mm-hmm.
just whatever, and two of them have so many properties that it's not feasibly possible in their lifetime to be in every single one of them. That's another crazy, hard thing to wrap your head around.
And you just hope that their financial advisors are handling all of those ins and outs. I mean, if you had someone like that, it's not like you could have that many more clients, because handling someone like that is a full-time job. My husband, his uncle is John Grondike with Grondike Trucking out of Enid, Oklahoma, and he has 100,000 square foot, like, just building that has nothing but antique cars in it, and he pays a guy $80,000 to $90,000 a year to manage those cars, and it's like, you know.
Wow.
You know, and he takes them to car shows, so, but yeah, so, all right. How is it going with your lead generating?
I have a strategy, and I'm going to do the business to business, and just talk to owners, incorporate, house business. Can you handle more clients?
Uh-huh.
We're getting a lot of clients coming into your area and like to help businesses out. By the way, in real estate, here's my card. If you know anybody, I like to follow up with you to see if any of my clients stop by. Or I don't know. I'm trying to think how to be valuable and that this contact that I get doesn't just get forgotten. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny though, Scott said don't worry about the follow-up right now, just get the clients. So maybe I'm trying to put too much on my plate at once.
Okay.
Because right now you just want to build your database, right?
Yes.
And not necessarily how to manage it just yet.
Exactly. Your goal right now is building it. So sometimes we can strategize too much to almost the point of forgetting what we really need to be implementing.
Right.
And I think that's, you heard me say yesterday, I'm one of those people, I go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll put the plan together later. My husband is I got a plan now, I've got to put the systems in place, and then I'll go out and do it.
I'm trying to be someone I'm not. That's what's holding me back, I think.
Okay.
I like that.
So,
What do you call that? I'm an extrovert, not an introvert,
Okay.
introverted person. I think I'm an extrovert. I'm enthusiastic, energetic, like to
Good.
go. But what would you call that specific behavior? What would you title yourself?
so I'm not a planner.
Okay.
I have my calendar,
Mhm.
and I do have my prospecting at a certain time every day. But everything else, kind of, when I get up in the morning, I know I'm looking for properties for, 5 clients or for 3 clients, and I'm looking through the MLS, and then we really, if someone calls, if my afternoon is not already set, I'm prepared to go out and do what we need to do. From that standpoint. Now, going out and looking for business right now, when I first got started, I knew I had to contact 25 people a day. I had to come in physical contact with 25 people a day because I wanted to, our first year, close 25 deals. And statistics show that if you say you want to close, even if it's 10 deals, your first year.
Yeah.
Then you need to be coming in physical contact with 10 people a day. So I knew 25.
To double it.
Yes. but that's 25 people
that you were actually talking
that I'm
to in
actually
person?
talking to in person.
Now, how are you doing that? I mean, there's only so many businesses out there. I mean, I guess you can continue to do that, but the further you branch away from your home territory, it's going to be harder to come back,
Mm-hmm.
right? Did you write down, hey, I met this person?
Yep. So books like that, I always have a book like that with me.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is that that's where I take my notes. If I'm in the car and someone calls, I can very quickly pick that book up and just jot a couple of notes. But also, if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm getting my oil changed, if I'm out there, what we did is we always kept for sale by owner packets in our car. And so if I was driving through a neighborhood and saw for sale by owner,
Yeah, I got that from you.
yes,
This right here.
yes, so you can utilize that in your for sale by owner. But what we also had was a packet that was put together in an orange envelope. You know, those just mailer envelopes. And we had how we would help them to sell their house on their own. We had a white glove in there and there was a list of things. The white glove is so that before each showing you want to make sure your house is white glove ready, making sure it's clean. I had a little plastic phone with gum in it, and that was, so when you're tired of doing it on your own, take 2 of these and call us. We'll do the rest. We had a staging book in there. We had, so that 8-week marketing book was, this is what you're going to need to do to get your listing out there.
And that's all in the Michael Cruz or in the dot loop?
Actually, those are not in the dot loop, but I can send them to you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is your email on here?
I have your email. Yes. So you emailed me after the last class.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That-
And the reason I kept the for sale by owner packets in my car is because if I'm driving around and I see something, I'm pulling over, I'm knocking on the door. If nobody answers or if it has a no solicitation, just drop the packet on the door and go.
That's so much better than telemarketing these people, and they're physically going to have the information for starters. They're going to have your card,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you can incorporate why you're hustling as like, I want to hustle for you.
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, no, that's exactly right. And it's something different than the multiple letters that they're getting in the mail of, I want to list your home, don't go the route of selling it on your own. Here's just the statistics of, for sale by owners who don't sell. My first information packet to them is, let me show you how to sell it on your own, and this is what you're going to have to do. But you make it just detailed enough where it might overwhelm them to the point of where they might call you. My expires. When we were first in the business, every morning I pulled up the expired list and I put together a route, and we just would go by there, drop off a similar packet, but actually it was a marketing packet of, these are the homes around you that sold. Do you want to know why yours didn't sell or why yours failed to sell? So there's different ways of capturing those people that you want to talk to. When you're in line, if you've got a name badge, make sure you've got your name badge on. Now that we have Kelly and we have Snap, that's huge to be able to talk to someone when they ask you, how's the market? And you go, well, the market's doing well. Do you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood? Oh, Snap, address, and then you've captured their information. But what I will do as well is if I'm talking to someone and they want more information is I just, I hand them my card and I say, do you mind if I take down your name and your email address? I won't necessarily get their telephone number. If they give me their email address and then I, follow up with, well, if there was something really important and I needed to call you, is that okay? And if they said yes, then I would say, can I have your number? Or if they said, well, you know what, an email's just fine for right now. No problem. That's not a big deal to me. put them in my phone, have the email, and then follow up. Really, once you start building your database, that follow up comes really natural. And even our database will allow you to set up a follow-up time so that you're not having to worry about, oh my gosh, when did I call them last? You can set it up to follow up in a week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months, 3 months. And then you get the emails to say, hey, you need to follow up with these people. We have a list. We did note cards of businesses. Another thing in bold is that 1 week we have to do 100 note cards of businesses. And the goal was to start reaching out to them and going to them to say, listen, I want to make you a strategic partner. And we have clients who move from out of town, or even if they're local but they may not know of you, can I put you as a partner with me? And then look at doing a Facebook Live and say, I'd like to schedule a time where I could do a 30-second Facebook Live video for you. And
I started looking into that, and then an ad popped up on my phone, and it just like freaked me out. I was just like, where the technology and the AI and augmented reality is going. I mean, I knew it was advanced, but I didn't know it was like that close. My girlfriend's a stager, master stager, and she was, so it basically said for a listing agent that they no longer actually have to go in the property. They're starting this 2020, where they put on the VR goggles and they can literally be at the property and just go into physically every room through this augmented reality. And then by 2025, they're going to be able to just have the furniture, what their choice and what they want within the program. So they don't even have to go there anymore. It's just all through. So I'm like, well, I'll be the narrator at least, telling them about the property.
It's funny because I know we've tried for years to do even virtual, like property tours and things like that. But there's still so much that most buyers want to touch, feel, smell. Because smells the house could be beautiful, and you could walk in and they could have had 7 cats in there, and you're like,
my main concern would be is the trickery involved, because you can digitally advance certain things, and I want to see it in person. I want to make sure I'm getting.
Yeah, I can digitally cover up a hole, and you'd never know that.
I mean, the furniture you want. I mean, it's just it's mind-boggling. I hope that this.
I don't think it'll be. We probably on average sell about 9 to 11 homes sight unseen to our buyers. Now we have been in the property so many times while we're on Facebook, FaceTime, or even WhatsApp if they're out of the country, and we're doing videos and we're doing live showings with them. But it's one of those things that we never had a buyer who said, I want to buy that house, don't worry about going and seeing it, I'm just going to buy it like it is. We've never had that. It's always been, we've seen the house, we've done videos, we've done, like I said, live showings through a video app or something like that, and then the inspector is there. He's seen the property, we have the report, we've done all of that kind of stuff. So as much as I think AI is going to be great for that initial view, I think someone's going to step through that door at some point to be able to do it. I would, unless you just have so much money that you just have to spend it on a house and don't care.
Right. I would like it for as to grow as a person, to have live conversations with people. Like it's all real time, you know. And try to be better conversationalists.
Yeah. And our videos are pretty in depth. I mean, it can take us 15, 20 minutes to do a video to walk through a house for a client.
Nice.
And with our clients, if they're out of the country, we do WhatsApp, and it's free. and we can talk, and it's just like, FaceTime, from that standpoint. So, Scott is right. Right now, your goal is building your database, reaching out to people. If you're in organizations, make sure you're not involved in so many realtor organizations that's all you're in contact with. Because we tend to go to safe places where there's other people like us,
Right,
versus,
getting in your comfort zone is such a challenging thing for me.
yeah.
How were you able to overcome that when you started?
Like, we basically started our business over when we moved to Harker Heights. And we just started really getting involved in church. We started getting involved in outside organizations. Again, not getting involved in as much realtor functions as it was even, like, we joined a gym. Our church was really big because of our kiddos. I got involved in our kiddos football. He did, the Pop Warner football. So we got involved in that. We sponsored a lot of the games, and so that gave us the opportunity to even talk to not only his parent or the parents on his team, but the rival team. So
Wow.
there's so many different ways, and if your girlfriend has different industry things as well, with her being a stager, y'all two pair together. Do your
Yes.
marketing together.
When you mean marketing together to the point where it's kind of like this, where, maybe one side I have me and then the other side I have her.
Absolutely. Team together that way. Have you done any landing pages on Facebook?
No.
So they're breakthroughbroker.com. Great free site.
What is it?
It's Breakthrough Broker.
Great.
Use your Keller Williams website that's already set up.
Mm-hmm.
On breakthroughbroker.com, they have landing pages that are already created. They'll walk you through the steps of how to create it. And then all you have to do is go on Facebook, put it on your business page, and create it, and then boost it. $10 or $15. And you can reach hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Are you saying that $10 to $15 is when I actually promote Facebook to reach out to more? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can set it for, I want to boost it for 7 days, or I want to boost it for 30 days. The longer time period, the more it's going to cost in order to reach the same number of people. But if you wanted to do a quick boost of 7 days, and then as people hit on that landing page, it pulls their information in from Facebook.
Are you marketing your KW website or your own personal website?
So we have two. We have our KW website, and then we have our personal website. And the reason I do that is that I try to track the landing pages and which one is creating more of a pull. Right now, our personal website is pulling more. But if I were brand new starting into this, I would be utilizing my KW website like crazy, because you pay for it through your technology fee, but it's as if it's free.
Right, and I can put multiple pages on there?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yep. Plus, it's already linked to the MLS.
Right. I need to work on that.
Yeah.
Bruce orientation actually helps walk you through to setting it up, which is
Mhm.
fantastic.
Absolutely. Because you know what, as agents, we can sometimes, we can know what we want to do, but the act of actually doing it is a little bit more challenging from that standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at Breakthrough Broker for those landing pages. I think Michael Lewis Marketing also has the landing pages on there, but I think there may be a cost to those, so check into that. Breakthrough Broker has so much on it, and it's all free. From financial spreadsheets to marketing postcards, what else? The landing pages. It's got buyer packets, seller packets that are already created, for sale by owner packets that are already created.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's all free, it's customizable. You customize it, you download it, and it's yours.
I wish I could just do like open houses and show properties for weeks straight and just get really insanely good at that, you know, rather than trying to have to do all these other things too.
Okay, well, so have you picked out a couple of neighborhoods that
Yeah.
you're looking at? How many houses a week are you previewing? Go find the vacant houses in those neighborhoods. Start scheduling previews for those. And tell the agent that's what you're doing. Tell them you're previewing the property. That way they don't get the idea that you are showing a bona fide buyer
Okay.
to it. They say, I'm just previewing the properties. Start learning, but the better part about that is announce that you're going to do a Facebook Live at these 3 properties at this time. And invite your friends to start watching those. And even though they're not your listings, that's getting you out there. But that's also teaching you how to preview houses and how to show houses. And if you can get an audience of people who are watching you go through these houses and ask them, say, hey guys, you know, you see this kitchen, what do you like about this kitchen? What do you not like about this kitchen? What do you like about this bedroom? What do you not like about the master ensuite? Or these type of things, and start engaging. And they'll start to show you how to show those homes, so that it's as if you have those buyers right there with you, but just invite them on your showings.
Now, is this through the landing page?
This would be through your business page,
Right,
the
through my
Facebook Lives.
business page, right? Because the landing page is your website. I got it. Okay, so
Mhm.
the business Facebook page, and then I do a live preview of the property, and then I put it on my business page, and then share it on my Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or am I sharing it in like a group?
You can do either. You can really do it. You can do it both ways. So you can share to your
And I can
personal
even
and to
promote
a
it.
group. Absolutely. I would promote it first. I would call 2 days in advance, set up the showings for 4 homes with those agents as previewing. Make sure they're vacant. I wouldn't ask someone who has a home that's owner occupied to leave when it's not a bona fide showing to a buyer. But find those vacant houses and announce 2 days in advance, hey, you know what, wouldn't you love to be able to see some homes that you don't have time to, you know, do on your own? Join me during this time. I'm going to be showing this house first, second, third, fourth. Come with me to see these homes and engage with me about what you like and don't like about the homes.
Right. Now, your opinion on this? When I went to the Facebook page course
Mm-hmm.
in Williamson County, and she had mentioned audio isn't as important, even though I recommend you do audio, but the majority of your clientele aren't going to be paying attention to the audio. They're just going to see the video because it plays,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't have the audio. What really helps people is to put little words, catchphrases and words over the video feed.
Yeah.
Do you know of a good program that you like to use for that, or
Probably Adobe would be a
the
good.
Adobe?
Yeah. I use Adobe Spark. And when we do our like open house announcements and I do the videos, I use Adobe Spark. I think it's $20 a month, but I can do as many as I want.
As many of
The videos.
videos through Adobe,
Uh-huh.
and that's just a software editing tool
Yep.
that you do through your phone or computer.
Both. They've got an app and you can use it on your computer.
Uh,
So, but those are things, since you said you wanted to do, if you could do open houses and tour homes, that is something that would give you every single day.
Yeah.
I would look at that and engage people on Facebook and set it up to where for the first 2 weeks it's, you know, either every day or every other day. And then move to where it's like twice a week, but build that momentum of, hey guys, I'm going to be seeing a great house. You have no idea how great this house is. And, you know, so go in and preview the house first so that you know exactly what you're going to say and what's going to be the exciting parts about the house. But so much of the social media engagement is huge. You can build your following from that. And then you could take those videos and you could even boost those videos to gain more audience, but also glean those leads from those that have signed up to start receiving your live feedback.
You can do what again? You can get proceeds?
No. You could start receiving leads.
Leads?
Yeah. So when you do a landing page on Facebook, the whole idea of the landing page is to get them to click want more information, and it pulls their contact information from Facebook and it sends it to you so that you then have a lead to follow up on. So, you know,
Didn't you say something that one of your students on your team, one of your teammates, John, had his first lead that he got was through like a chat or something, or they had looked at a page and inquired about some
Yes.
information?
so it was off of our website, and so like here. These are leads. They come in off of our landing pages directly through our website. And
Wow, look at all those.
you know, so as they come in, you make the calls.
How many of those do you get in a month?
Probably 150. Now, internet leads, you're going to convert probably 1 out of every 70 or 80. But what happens with those is the ones that are not converted immediately are ones that are 4 months, 6 months, even up to 18 to 24 months down the line. But we do them all from landing pages, and it could cost me $10 or $15 to get 150 leads,
That's fantastic.
and it's just a matter of calling them. But yeah, so John's first listing came in off of one of our landing pages, and on our team we have a round robin. So when that lead came in, I gave it to him, and he called, followed up. Took about 2 months before they were ready to list, but he went in, he did the presentation. When he did list it, it went under contract in about 7 days and closed in less than a month. So, you know, those type of things, and that's part of our marketing. So if I'm not directly out meeting 25 people, we're getting them through leads, making calls, following up. And when you get these leads though, following up is important almost immediately. So that was one thing that we had to overcome with John. Is John was like, I'd give him a lead and he'd say, okay, well I'll contact him in 2 days. In 2 days they've already forgotten that they were looking at homes online. Or they've gone to someone else's website and that person's contacted them. So the quicker you can make contact with someone, the chances of you being able to convert them and keep them are higher.
And that's where you just use your script practice a little bit to, feel your place to be valuable to try to schedule that appointment. Now that appointment that you get, are you bringing them here?
No, not typically.
Are you going to their house?
If it's a listing, yes, we're meeting them at their house, and I will do I'll do some rough numbers.
Do you go alone or do you go?
Lee and I go.
You go with Lee, okay.
Yeah.
That helps a little bit.
You know, it's really strange. I've never I have gone to listings by myself. I've never had a feeling of, because I've checked out who's called me is really who owns the house. Buyers, not so much. Buyers, I won't meet with a buyer for the first time on my own at a property. With us being in Harker Heights, we meet at Starbucks, we meet at a title company, but we always
With
talk
a
to them.
buyer?
Yes. So we always talk to them that we have to have a buyer interview first before showing them properties.
As they say in the class in Champions, to bring them here to get their copy of their driver's license just for your own safety.
Yes.
It doesn't always work that way.
Well, because most of our buyers are going to be more in the Bell County area, to have them come here wouldn't make sense. So we meet at Starbucks or a title company, things like that. If we have buyers in this area, of course, they would come to the office.
Got it.
So, there have been a few times where I've met a buyer and I was just kind of like, I'm not going to meet with them in their property without Lee. But on a listing, I have gone on my own. I haven't ever really had a feeling from that standpoint. So, but where you are right now, it is about getting those people to know what you're doing. So, but now, like with the last class you were in was about meeting with the sellers. You got the listing. Were you in that class?
I was. When the buyer, the finding and showing the homes I missed, but I
Oh.
did the Monday and
Oh, okay. So Wednesday was about, I guess, finding the home, and then, because this one is about making the offer and presenting the offer, from that standpoint. And I like doing this one because whether you're the seller's agent and you're receiving the offers, or you're the buyer's agent and you're making the offer, the presentation is everything from that standpoint. And in your area, when you do have those buyers that you're working with, the way your market is moving, you could be competing with other buyers on those offers, just because of how this area works. So most of the homes, you could have competing offers on them. So that makes your offer, how are you going to make your offer stand out? How can you help your buyer to win that offer from that standpoint? And so, of course, you also have to know how to negotiate. And you're helping your buyer to negotiate through the listing agent, so they can help negotiate with their agent. When we're talking to our buyers and we know we have competing offers, if they really want the house, we're going to have to come in strong. We've done our due diligence to run numbers so that we know if the house is priced right, can it go a little bit higher over list price and still appraise? Or is it overpriced? Is it priced just right up at that top where we really need to come in strong with our offer price, but maybe it's also the terms? So,
Now, once you agree to the listing price and you negotiate and get it for that price, is somewhere in the contract, are you able to renegotiate the price down based on some facts?
so this is what I'll say about that. And sometimes, yes, but most of the time after the price is agreed upon in the very beginning, the negotiations that you see moving forward are more on repairs, concessions towards repairs. If it doesn't appraise, then we would look at adjusting that price. But it really leaves a bad taste in the seller's mouth if you come in full price gusto, want the house, and then during the option period you come back and go, you know what, I want to renegotiate the price. Because then it makes them feel like you did this to win it, and now you're wanting to come in and ask for a lower price. If you've got competing offers, yours, I mean, I've had agents do this where they come in and they'll bid overprice. And
Knowing
then,
that they're gonna come back and,
exactly.
wow.
And that's,
Well,
you
we
know.
learned that in class too, that that's not only illegal, but it's unethical too, right?
to come back with a different price?
No, to
Oh, to
basically
overbid?
have some knowledge or known information that is not disclosed.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. You're showing a house and there's no construction yet
Uh-huh.
in the backyard behind the fence. And then when you're going through the motions, you get the listing, or I'm sorry, you negotiate, you set on a price, and during what do you call it, that phase?
The option period, due diligence.
Let's call it the
Okay.
executory period, maybe that's what I was thinking, the in between before opening, before it's maybe you call it executory period?
Well, we haven't executed,
Executed, executory, and then, I don't know,
okay. Once it's executed, we fall into our option period.
you say it's the option period, okay, so
Yeah,
during the
so that
option
may
period,
be
let's say a big construction sign goes up that,
Behind them is.
behind them,
Uh-huh.
and they're like, what's this, and if you obviously knew it was coming,
So those would be material facts that if you as an agent knew and you knew that your buyer wanted a piece of property that was not going to have anyone behind them,
right,
and you did not disclose the fact that there was going to be someone behind them, whether it was 6 days later, 60 days, 6 years, if you know, and your education does not, prohibit you from saying, well, I didn't go down to the county and know this. We're supposed to know
right,
what is going on in all of our areas. I mean, that's called competency
correct,
in our market. And so if you fail to disclose that, knowing that your buyer would not have bought that piece of property because of that, then yes, that's a material fact that was omitted, whether on purpose or not. They could claim that you knew or should have known that it was coming in. So it's basically an act of omission that is happening. And
that's
so
frowned
that is,
upon and
it's unethical.
unethical, right,
Yes. Now, what we have in our, and you may see this, is that especially when you have a hot market, you have a buyer who is looking at 2 different homes. And they say, oh my gosh, I want to secure at least one of these homes because I don't, but I'm not sure which one I want. So you'll have an agent who will say, well, let's write an offer on both of them. Because you have an option. And during that option period, you can choose which one you want without telling the other agent. Now, you're not supposed to do that unless that buyer can afford both of those homes.
oh my gosh,
But we have had that happen. We have had it happen where during the option period, we've gone under contract, we have the seller, the inspection is done, everything's rolling along. Nothing big on the inspection. They come back and they terminate. And I'm asking the agent, I'm like, wait a minute, y'all didn't even ask for repairs. Why are you terminating? And they're like, well, because our buyer chose another house. Were they under contract at the same time? Well,
It's like showing up to a car auction or any auction that matters, bidding on a painting, winning the bidding, and then going to another auction, bidding on another auction, and going, no, I don't want this painting, I want that
Yeah.
one.
and
You can't do that.
but there are people who do that.
You raised your hand, you said, yes, I want that, that means you're.
Yeah. And, you know, the question comes up, should it have been disclosed that those buyers were doing that? Because especially if you're multiple offers, your seller chose that offer, then what happens is those other offers that didn't get chosen, they found other houses in the meantime. So now your seller is stuck with having to put the house back up on the market. Now it's stigmatized, things like that. So part of the due diligence, especially when you have a seller and an offer comes in, or if you have multiple offers, is asking as many questions as possible to make sure that you understand each offer that has come in. One thing from a listing agent that I'm always going to ask the buyer's agent, is it more important for your buyer to get the price that they're asking for, or is it more important for them to have their closing costs paid for? Because if they come in lower, but they're asking for closing costs, I need to know which is more important, because that's going to enable me to go back to my seller and say, listen, they really need all of their closing costs paid for. They came in $5,000 under asking price. Let's raise their asking price to this, but agree to pay all of their closing costs. Or if the agent says, oh no, they're stuck at this sales price, they're not going to ask anymore. Okay, great. Then I'm going to go back to my seller and I'm going to say, this is where they want to come in at, but they're asking for these closing costs over here. We're going to take those closing costs off the table. We're going to give them the sales price that they want, and they can pay their own closing costs. Or they can pay their own home warranty, or they can pay their own survey. There's so many different ways of looking at the offers that it doesn't necessarily nail down to price. Sometimes it can be terms. You have two offers on your listing. One is a cash offer. It's $10,000 less, closing in 15 days, $5 option or 5-day option. Okay. And then the other offer is a full price offer, but it's closing in 45 to 60 days. There's a financing contingency. They want a 10-day option. Those kind of things you look at.
What would be on the finance contingency, like some lender repairs or?
Finance contingency means that the deal is contingent on them obtaining financing. So whether it's the appraisal or it's that borrower.
Wouldn't they already be pre-qualified at that point?
Well, pre-qualified doesn't mean that they are approved. So it means that the lender has looked at their financials, they've looked at their credit score, and they may or may not already run employment verifications.
So there's
But
a
it
gray
says,
area.
yeah, it says if all things look the same as what the buyer is providing us right now, then we will be able to qualify them to approve for the loan after it's gone through underwriting, after we've received the appraisal, and make sure that nothing changes with their finances, credit, or employment.
Mm-hmm.
Then in 45 to 60 days, they can close on the house. But on a cash deal, there's no appraisal. There's no financing terms. We want a proof of funds letter that shows they have the cash. They've got that. We're closing. Borrowing that the buyer doesn't die or they lose their cash or, you know,
Right.
things like that. So, but that's where those two offers, that cash offer that's $10,000 less, looks better than a full price offer closing in 60 days, because you could get down to the last week of that 60-day financing and the borrower, and we've had this happen, the borrower fails to make a credit card payment. And it drops their score 40 points to where they no longer qualify for the loan. And they have to terminate the contract. And your seller is back to square one 60 days later.
When you find yourself in this situation, like you had mentioned, aren't you aware of what their front ratio and back ratios are and how much they qualify for? Like X amount, let's say they qualify for $300,000 and they're getting a $200,000 house. A couple inquiries on your credit aren't going to. But if you were buying a $300,000 house and you're qualified for $300,000, yeah, I would
Well, but as a
Don't you
listing
know the
agent,
variance?
I don't get to see any of that. And as a buyer's agent, some of that information is confidential
As a
between the
listing agent,
borrower.
you're not gonna see that.
No, I'm not
But-
gonna see
But
that.
on, if you're representing the buyer, of course you're gonna be able to talk to the their
You're gonna be able
lender.
to talk to the lender, and some lenders will say, we're kind of a shaky loan, but I think I can get it done. Or they'll say, you know what, this is a slam dunk, no problem, these people could pay cash for the house if they wanted to, type situation. But the lender's still not going to give you confidential information,
See, that's,
credit score wise.
I don't know why that's never clicked in my head, so the listing agent won't have that information, they can't have that information, because
No.
it's private.
But I will tell you, as a listing agent, when you get an offer, you can call the lender. They're not gonna give you confidential information, but you can say, I'm calling to make sure that, based on this pre-qualification, what's your feelings on this borrower? And they're not gonna give you confidential information, but you can say,
You
okay,
can bring A, B, C.
exactly,
Excellent, no problem, B,
yeah. And
and that's not in violation of
No.
anything?
no, because I'm not asking for any of that, but I can ask them, okay, so it shows that they're putting $40,000 down. Do you have copies of their bank statements to qualify that they have that 40,000? And they can say, yes, we've already verified that. Okay, great, good deal, not a big deal. Now, some of the buyer's agents are gonna get ticked off that you do that. So what I would say is, when you get that offer in, you get the pre-approval letter in, say, hey, do you mind if I just reach out to the lender? I'm not gonna ask any confidential information, but I just wanna be able to
You're telling
verify
this
with
to
my
the
seller.
buying agent?
Yes.
Got it.
It has never happened to me until about a month ago, where I had the buyer agent call me and just read me the riot act for calling the lender. But that is something I do standard, and I promise my sellers, when we get an offer in, I'm gonna be verifying with the lender that they've actually talked to this buyer, they've met with this buyer, they've seen their qualifications, because the last thing I wanna do is sell your house twice. So I'm changing some of my practices to now ask the buyer's agent, by the way, part of my due diligence that my sellers have asked me to do is to contact the lender. Do you mind if I do that? I'm not gonna ask them any confidential information. Do you want me to call them, or would you like to have them reach out to me? That way it puts that buyer's agent at ease. But also, cause you know what? I call the lender to see where we are in the process. Once we've gone under contract. Hey, how's it going in underwriting? Are they out of underwriting? Has the appraisal been ordered? What do you need from me? Things like that. So, from that standpoint, receiving the offer is not just looking it over, putting together a net sheet, and then moving on. Because I also want to kind of know, okay, so what made your buyer decide they wanted to make an offer on this house?
Motivation, yeah.
So that I can tell my sellers, it's a young couple, or it's an older couple, or it's this, or,
But you can't tell
you know.
profession, you can't,
And I don't ask that.
right.
But a lot of times, because most of ours are military,
I didn't even
agents
know
will
you could say
say-
family, to be honest with you.
I just ask, are they a young couple, are they an older couple? What made them decide to make the offer on our house? And
For my first transaction, especially when the negotiation happens, obviously I can come to the office and ask questions, but we had recommended that I get a virtual assistant or a transaction coordinator or someone, so I could not get so involved, so I can continue to prospect. They are not gonna help with the negotiation option, they're just there to basically facilitate.
to help facilitate the paperwork that's necessary after everything is negotiated out. What I would say is, I would say your first few deals, get someone who can help you to go through that. But honestly, there's enough of us in here that you can say, hey, I've got this, how should I handle this? You're going to Scott, going to Kristen, going to one of us, and saying,
Okay.
how do I handle this?
Okay.
Really, until you probably have 4 or 5 deals going on at one time, which you really need someone who's going through your paperwork to help get everything in order. Because I think you need to run those first few transactions on your own with help from one of us
Mhm.
to know what documentation you need. But we still run most of our transactions on our own. And even if I wasn't here, Lee would be able to run up to 5 transactions on his own and not miss his prospecting.
Wow.
But anything over that, I mean, our biggest, we had 20 transactions going on at one time. That, like, snowed me under. That was, I never want to do that again on my own. But 4 to 5, one person can handle 4 to 5
Can't imagine that.
pretty easily.
It's
So that takes
Yeah.
systems. I mean, I have spreadsheets, and they're telling me you need to, don't forget about this, don't forget about this. Oh yeah, hey, reminder about that. And so you have to be really ready for those. But if you've got it, and I can share my spreadsheets with you.
Really?
And they have trigger dates in them. You put the executed date in there. You put closing date in there. You put how many days of option, your survey contingency dates, and it literally will calculate out those dates. And it'll go from green to yellow when you only have 2 days left to red on the day. So you can look at that spreadsheet and go, oh, I've got to get on this. If I haven't put a completed date in there, and when it is a completed date, it turns to purple. So, but really, negotiations on offers don't have to be a fight. Some agents think negotiations is arguing, or I've got to win at all cost. Most of our negotiations, we already ask our buyers when they make an offer if it's a lower than asking price. Okay, if the seller comes back at this, are you willing to take it? And they'll tell us. They'll say, you know what, I'm willing to go as high as this without walking away. So that we know if the seller comes back at that, hey, we're moving forward. Now, we never disclose that to the other agents, but in our mind, we're setting ourselves up. When I do my listing appointments with sellers, and I set our price range, I'll say, okay, if we list here, we should expect an offer at this. If we get an offer at this, would you be happy with that? Or, do you want this full price? Do you want this? And if we get, if we're looking at closing costs and things like that. So I'm asking a lot of those questions up front so that I'm also qualifying them to know if that's someone I want to work with. If I have a buyer who says, I want to come in $20,000 under, and I'm not willing to come up, am I still going to make the offer? Yes, because that's my client. I have to do
Right.
what they've asked me of. But it also puts in my mind that, at this point, do I have a buyer who's really serious about buying?
Mm-hmm.
And do we need to be looking at distressed properties versus really great properties that, I know are going to go for much higher?
Yeah, I think it would just, the whole experience could be fun, just learning about people and their, what they value and what they don't value, and what maybe they think they value, just asking good questions is maybe not as important as they actually anticipated.
Absolutely.
So a wife might want a big kitchen, and the husband wants a big garage because he's got 5 cars. So, but 5 cars and a big kitchen means this much of the house, which is expensive, and it's way out of their price range. So it's really having that conversation with them, finding out what they really value. So having a big kitchen means what to you, right? having a big garage means what to you? And then, oh, well, I plan on selling 2 cars. Okay, so you plan on selling 2 cars, so feeling that the garage isn't as important as maybe the kitchen because you value family,
Mhm.
people.
And those are those conversations, and even like as you're showing the home, and there's no fence, and they say, I can't believe there's not a fence here. Okay, so let me ask you, if the seller agreed to put up a fence, would you buy this house? And you have to meet that objection. So meet it face to face and say, if we ask the seller to put a fence in, would you make an offer? And if they say, well,
Now, would you say that's a direct question versus an indirect? Like, let me ask you, what do you value about a fence? Or trying to dig to understand what a fence really means to them? And I don't know how you position that question to
Well,
not come off too offensive.
you could, but a lot of times buyers are going to throw smoke screens up as they're looking at the house. And when you meet a smoke screen head on, you'll find out whether or not it is a true issue, or is there going to be another smoke screen behind that. So you'll find out whether or not they really like the house, because buyers will walk into a house, even if they don't like it, they'll point out things they do like about the house, but then they'll start to nitpick little bitty things. And if you say, okay, well, so that hot pink bedroom over there, if it were painted a different color, would you buy the house? Well, it's not just the hot pink bedroom, it's that the bathroom is kind of small. Oh, okay, so we need a bigger bathroom. Yeah. Okay, well, a bigger bathroom is not something we can change. So really, at that point, it does become the house. So that hot pink bedroom was a smoke screen because I didn't really want to say, I don't like it because it's not a big enough bathroom. A fence is more often a smoke screen for something else. And if you don't meet those smoke screens head on, you will never learn what those big issues are. Now, there will be some buyers who walk in and go, bathroom's too small, bedroom's too small. Okay, great. You know what? I've got another house, has a bigger bathroom, bigger bedroom. And if they say, oh, okay, great, let's go.
So you're saying let's not waste any more time looking at this property. Let's move on to a property that hopefully will value more. Okay.
A lot of times,
Because their mind's already checked out.
it is. And if there are those items that you can't change, they're not going to be happy in that house. We even tell our buyers, if we drive up to the front of the house and you don't like how the front of that house looks, brick color, stone color, stucco, or whatever, let's move on. Because what's the first thing you do every time you drive up to that house? You're looking at the outside of that house. If you don't like the way the neighborhood looks, are you going to be happy every time you drive into your neighborhood every day and look to that house? As long as it has nothing to do with fair housing. I have fired a client because of fair housing.
Why were they asking questions that you couldn't answer?
No, we would drive into neighborhoods and they would see people and they would go, why are so many of those people walking down the street? Why are so many whatever? And I had told her twice, I said, I can't be a part of that. So if you make that statement again, I'm not your agent. And I can't steer you in a neighborhood demographically wise. And her husband her husband was like, don't say that again. And that third time, I said, okay, we've got a couple more houses. I said, but after those houses, I'm sorry, we're going to have to terminate our representation because I can't be a part of this. And we did. We parted ways. I had a seller this summer who said, I don't want family, I don't want people with children seeing my house. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, I don't want children running through my house. And I said, okay.
Did it terminate the listing?
And, well, this was before we took the listing, and because it was during the appointment. And I said, well, I can't stop people from seeing the house that have children. And I said, you understand that, correct? And I said, what we can ask is that the agents make sure that those children stay beside their parents. I said, but you also still have to understand, I'm not gonna be there doing the showing. So if something happens, you know, things like that. And she was just real adamant about it. And I just told her, I said, I'm not the agent for you. So, you know, but those don't happen very often. But from the standpoint of finding out what those buyers are throwing up smoke screen wise, I mean, have you ever purchased a home before?
Am I what?
Have you purchased a home before?
Mhm.
So, you know, was it the first home you saw that you purchased, or did you see multiple homes?
For me, it was a newer development. There was, what, 4 or 5 different elevations,
Mm.
and we didn't want the first one because it was a one-story, and then the second one was in our price range, and we fell in love with the model. So it was, actually, I guess you could say it was the first one. It was just a matter of finding the lot that we wanted, and they
Mhm.
happened to have the lot. And yeah, it was actually the first one then. Oh my gosh.
So y'all didn't go out looking ahead of time, and
We had our feelers out there.
Okay.
But getting somebody involved as an agent didn't
Yeah.
happen until just happened to be the first one.
Okay.
But it was a sales office.
yeah. And as you walked through, you still looked at things and went, okay, we don't want this one story because of this.
Right.
We want a 2-story because it's got this. And so as a buyer, you can now begin to understand when you have a buyer and they say, well, we don't really like that. We want this. And so then you say, okay, well, you know what, this house over here that I have has this that you're looking for. Do you want to go over and see this one versus that one?
Let me ask you this, because maybe I'm a little confused on this. When you go through a builder like that, there isn't really a bid war or a negotiation war versus selling someone's home in a older community, right?
Yeah, it's much different.
It's much different.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that.
Because you're going to pick out your features that you want. The builder's going to give you a price, and you're going to say, okay.
And you say, okay, and here's my good funds,
Yep.
whatever, right?
And you're going to do that. But when you're selling a resale, there's a lot more
Right.
out there. Plus, the fact is that you're dealing with a seller who only has one house to sell, and multiple buyers who have multiple houses that they could choose from. So the market that y'all been in here has been more of a seller's market, where the seller has 5, 8, 10, 15 buyers who are going, oh my gosh, I want this one house, because there's not a lot of inventory out there.
Mhm.
When the market shifts to where there are more homes and not a lot of buyers, from that standpoint, those buyers are going to have more to choose from.
Right.
That's where that shift happens, and those buyers sit in the driver's seat.
Right.
So,
You start entertaining contingency sales even though you don't like them to get involved.
yeah. So, but on a builder, the builder has multiple homes to sell.
Right.
So they can kind of dictate what they're going to charge, what the fees are going to be. If they've got spec homes that sit there for months, then they'll start to add even more incentives from that standpoint. But, you know, in understanding what your buyer wants and being able to put that on paper, convey it to a listing agent so that they can properly convey it to their seller to win the offer, that's where you really hope to be. During the option period is where you'll negotiate repairs, things like that. um, you know, a seller can see offering repair allowance or incentives more than they can reducing the price. Reducing the price carries its stigmatism that I'm not getting the price I want. I'm not going to be able to tell my friends that I got X for my house. So if they offer a repair allowance, they can still tell their friend, hey, I sold my house for this. They're not going to tell their friend that they had to give $5,000 away in repairs, or we had to pay for a new roof or something like that. So that's where I would say that from that standpoint, most of the time when the price is when it is set, it's set unless the appraisal doesn't make value from
Right.
that. So, when you're representing the buyer, of course, you're going to prepare and write the offer. Have you have you even done like a mock?
Yes.
Oh, good. So you're familiar with the contracts?
I'm not like, I got it memorized or anything by any means, but,
Okay.
familiar with it.
And, you know, what's really great for that is the fact that, like in Dotloop, we have the checklist of the forms that are required. So, and if Dotloop is set up correctly from the very beginning, all those forms will populate with the correct information. So it really makes it to where it's, I mean, there's still some information that you have to add to it, but it makes it a lot easier. This, when you're representing the seller, of course you're receiving the offer, make sure when you represent the seller and you receive the offer, you have to notify the buyer agent that you have received that offer. NAR Code of Ethics has added that you have, I believe it is 24 hours to update the buyer's agent that you are in receipt of their offer. So, going back to like the negotiations, really you want to look at what's going to be the best win-win situation for both parties. It helps the transaction. It just really, all things being equal, you know, I even tell my sellers that if we get an offer that's just so low, well, your choice is to accept it, counter it, do nothing. But instead of doing nothing with it, let's come back, ask for full price, decrease the closing costs, ask for what you want, and then we'll send it back to the buyer and see if they're serious.
What's your thought on sellers that don't want to entertain offers at a certain price?
Make sure you get it in writing. I would still present the offer, send it to them in an email and say, I know you said you're not going to take any offer that's less than this, but I need to send you this just in case. Have it in an email so that if it ever came back to them where they said, well, we never saw that offer, we would have taken that offer, you have it that you have shared it with them. So, and you know, win-win or no deal, integrity, do the right thing. The other agent on the other side, you have to hope is going to do the right thing. You may sometimes end up having to do their job as well. It just is.
Like what part of what would I have to do?
Well, like John, on his first listing, the buyer's agent, her buyers were under contract on another house. They were a backup contract. So they weren't in first place, they were as a backup. They walked through John's house, his listing, and said, oh my gosh, we love this one. So she rescinded that offer, the backup offer, which was fine. You can do that.
sent, because the offer wasn't sent out yet?
No, what I mean is they
Oh,
they
was a
pulled it
backup.
back. Since it was a backup offer,
Okay, so I'll explain the one thing. So a backup offer means that they were second in line, and the first in line is got the contract,
mm-hmm,
and the backup offer is in second. So if this were to
fall out.
fall out, this backup
They
offer,
automatically fall
Got
into
it.
first place. But what this agent had done was the buyers came back to them and said, oh my gosh, we found this listing. We want this one. So she retracted that backup offer. But what she did is when she wrote the offer to John on his listing, she took the contract that her buyers had already written on the other property, just blacked out the address, the legal description on it, and just put John's address, listing information on it, and submitted it. Well, if that's not lazy, but also she never had her buyer's initial next to any of the changes. So we never really knew if the buyers really made that offer. So she was lazy and didn't want to go and retype a whole new offer. So what John ended up doing before he presented it to his sellers was he retyped the offer just as she had it, sent it to her to have her buyers sign an initial, and then he presented it to his client. But in essence, he had to do her job from the very beginning.
Wow.
And then as it went along right before closing, he had already scheduled his sellers for signing, had everything ready. The day that they were closing that morning, she calls him and she goes, are we closing today? And he said, yeah, my sellers are signing at 10:30. And she said, well, I haven't scheduled my buyers yet. So he called the title company and said, hey, can the buyers come in and sign after my sellers? And they were like, yeah, we have that open. So occasionally, but
You want
that's,
to stay in good contact with the buyer's agent, so
Well,
that doesn't happen.
you want to trust that they're doing their end, but sometimes you're going to have to do, in order to help facilitate the transaction, there are going to be agents that you are going to have to help get to the finish line with their clients because they're either unorganized, they're less than detailed,
Wow.
and so, but also, it's doing the right thing because you're wanting to get your clients to the finish line too.
Mm-hmm.
So your customers always come first, commitment in all things, communication, seek first to understand. And that's why if you have the seller, you're calling the buyer's agent to understand who the buyer is.
Right.
And then ideas before results. So sometimes you're going to have to think outside the box to get a transaction closed. And what I would say is a lot of agents, if it's coming down to money, their first idea is to cut commission. That's not it. Cutting commission is not an idea of how to get a transaction closed. How are there other ways that we can help get the buyer and the seller to the finish line without cutting money? Especially when it's coming out of your pocket. You may have to come up with some creative ways of, getting transactions closed, things like that. I'm trying to think of, how, so we have a buyer who's under contract right now. He found the house that he liked. The seller had just reduced the price about 10 grand. I did my market report and saw that where they had it listed was about $6,000 to $7,000 under what it should have been listed at.
Ooh, okay.
But we also knew, just by looking at the house, there were some repairs that we wanted to ask for with the offer. And the agent came back and said, listen, at the price that you're offering, the seller can't pay the closing costs and do those repairs. I said, okay, well, my buyer still needs their closing costs paid for. I said, but the repairs that we're asking for, we realize are about $1,500. So let me call my client, and I called him and I said, listen, they can't make the repairs and pay your closing costs at the price that we're doing this at. There's still room. If we raise the sales price up by $1,500, that's gonna be roughly about $10 more a month to you and your mortgage payment. I said, but wouldn't you like to have that allowance for repairs? And he goes, yeah. And I said, are you comfortable with raising the price $1,500? And he goes, no problem.
It's probably cheaper than that, $1,500.
For every $1,000, you're looking at about $7.65 added on to your mortgage. So that's where we figured it was, going to be about $10. And so I called the other agent up and I said, hey, if we raise the price by $1,500, will they do that? And she said, they probably will. So that was getting creative without going, well, shoot, how do we make this work and how can we get these repairs? And I'm willing to cut my commission to this, just things like that. So,
Right, I see what you're saying.
yeah, teamwork. When you're working with a really good agent and both of you are staying in your lanes to do your job, but you're also working together to help get things, there's nothing better. And you'll start to learn those agents that you like to work with. You'll also start to learn the agents that you can't always avoid them.
Yeah.
You're just going to need to tell your client, hey, you know what? I've worked with this agent before. I can't say anything bad about her or him, but I'm just going to say this one could be a little bit rougher of a transaction. We're going to head these things off at the very beginning and just, go from there.
And you let your client know that too.
Because I'm not saying anything bad about them. I'm just saying these are the things that we have. I mean, I have one agent, we've done 4 deals together. They have never closed on time. In fact, I've never had one with him that didn't close where we didn't have to do an extension at least 3 times. All of those transactions that I've done with him too, he's gonna have his buyer pay for an option period. They're never going to have an inspection. And he has proven me right every transaction that we've done. So I'm telling my sellers this because that's my experience.
Right.
It's never stopped the seller from saying, I don't want to sell to them, but I'm setting that up from the very beginning so that when we have to extend that first time, the joke is, well, maybe we'll only, maybe his track record will be different and we'll only have to extend this one time. When we have to extend that second time, second time.
Wow.
Third time's the charm though. So my sellers are not calling me, screaming at me, going, why are we not closing? Why are we not closing? So if you can kind of set that expectation from that standpoint, you'll start to learn. Now you have a lot more agents in this area. So you may run up against certain agents that, because just of the number of listings that they have or the number of buyers that they have, you're working with them a little bit more often. But there will be, we've been in Bell County for 6 years now. And there's agents that I know of and we've come in different circles together, but I've never done a transaction with them. And so you'll just kind of begin to learn from that standpoint. Now, did you get the workbook? Do I need to send this to you
The workbook.
for this class? And the reason why I'm asking is there's a checklist for, let me see what page. Did it have it on there? I was hoping they had the checklist on here. No, they don't. And I'll send this to you. But this is a great checklist for preparing the offer. When you're working with the buyer, you're going to want to make sure when you're putting the offer together that you have that pre-approval letter offer that's less than what they're approved for, have the lender change that pre-approval letter to just the offer price. Now, I say that, if you're in multiple offers, ask your client, say, hey, the offer price is $250, you're approved up to $275. Because there's multiple offers, can we show that you're actually approved for more? And that way, it puts the seller at ease that you really can
Right.
afford this house. But if it's just a single offer and you know there's not any more coming in, have the lender adjust the pre-qualification letter or pre-approval letter
Mhm.
down to what your offer is. And the reason for that is, as agents, I mean, if I'm the listing agent and I receive the offer and the pre-approvals for the same price, I'm telling my sellers most often, the buyer only wants you to see that they're only approved up to this, because they're afraid that you're gonna raise the price, because you can see that they can afford a lot more.
Mhm.
So,
it could work both ways.
exactly.
That's why it's important to.
But I
inform.
also, if it's just a single offer and there's not any that we're competing with, I may not necessarily want them to know that they're approved for higher if we're coming in at a lower list price or lower asking price.
This is a multiple offer situation that you suggest to show that they approved up to this much if you're in a multiple offer.
If I wanted to seem really strong and make my borrower seem that, they are
But,
very well qualified.
right, but you also wanna say, hey, like, their only hesitation of showing you this is just that you'd be asking for more.
Yeah, but normally in a multiple offer situation, the buyers are asking at least at list price, if not more than list price. Very seldom when you're in a multiple offer situation are the buyers coming in under, if they really want the property.
Right.
If they're just throwing it up there to see what will stick,
So when we're having these negotiations, is this over phone and then we're emailing the offers?
to our clients,
To our
like if we have
clients.
the sellers,
Right.
if your sellers are local, meet them at the table. Either have them come into the office, which is a more professional atmosphere, plus less emotional.
Mhm.
If they want you to come to the house, then come to the house. Set the scene, and especially if you have multiple offers, work up your net sheet based on each offer, and then put each one of those offers into an envelope. The most we've ever had on one property was 10 offers at the same time.
That way you're not basically, pushing offers that.
Yeah, I'm not
that are
pushing one over another.
over another.
And you'll have agents, when they know they're in multiple offers, they're like, well, you have to present mine first because it came in first. No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work up the net sheets on all of these, and then they're gonna go into envelopes. I'm going to seal those envelopes, I'm gonna lay those envelopes on the table, and I'm gonna have the seller pick which one they wanna look at first, which one do you wanna look at second, third, fourth, on down the line.
How long does it take to build a net sheet?
If you get with a title company that has a net sheet that they already have that's digital, 10 minutes per net sheet. I had to learn how to do net sheets by hand. Because when I got into the business, we didn't have digital net sheets. So I really learned what numbers look right. On the digital ones, you really want to make sure that those numbers look right. But normally about 10 minutes per net sheet. And you want to know what the seller's payoff is estimated.
Right.
And then you just build it based off of the terms of the contract that was sent in. And I do have a multiple offer spreadsheet. Let me see if I.
There was a leak or something?
Huh?
I didn't even
Yeah, I
notice that.
guess we're still having a leak. I don't know.
Um,
Let me see here. Yeah. Um, um, what's your email address?
my email is sam.fisher@kw.com.
And Fisher is Fisch or just fish?
It's not Fisch. That's funny.
Okay.
So many people. It's just the regular American Fish.
ER? Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. So I'm going to send you this multiple offer spreadsheet that I use. And what's nice about this is, so I'll do each one of the offers, and I'll do the spreadsheets, and then I put them into an envelope. But I do this multiple offer spreadsheet where as they're opening them up, I can show them on the spreadsheet, okay, this is the sales price that this one is offering, this is the terms, and then at the bottom, it's basically got a total across all offers, that this is the basic net based on those terms.
Like that.
Exactly. Whether there's, if there's only one offer, I'm not doing it. But if there's two or more, I'm doing that multiple offer spreadsheet so that they don't have to go back and go, oh wait, which was the one that had
So then
this
at
one
that
in it?
point, it's, especially if I've already seen it, you can just show them the spreadsheet. I like that.
Yep. So I've emailed you that. It was one that already had two offers on it, so just delete those.
Okay, sure.
But keep that in your file so that if you ever do have to do that, it also,
Help
to sellers,
to speak to them.
yeah, and they feel like you've really done the work to look at how, to look out for their best interest.
Right.
So, and just going from there. But have you spoken to any title companies? Have you
Yes.
gone to, okay.
I haven't gone, I just, the vendors that I meet and the business cards that I'm acquiring.
Mm-hmm. Ask them if they have net sheets that they
Okay.
can send you. And start even find if there are a couple of agents that you can shadow, because you're on your own, aren't you? Yeah, so you're not part of a team. Find if there are some agents that you can shadow on a couple of deals. Shadow on a listing, shadow on a buyer. And ask them, say, can I help you do this? Can I help you, and start asking those questions. There are tons of us who would not mind if you did. Because we were all right there. I mean,
What kind of things could I help out with some, maybe basically shadow an open
Shadow an open house, shadow on a buyer showing.
Buyer showing.
Mm-hmm. Shadow on a listing appointment. Lee and I don't go to inspections unless our client is out of town. If our buyer is an out-of-town buyer, then we will go on the inspections. There are probably some agents around here who do go on inspections. Ask if you can go with them. Ask the title company if they can do a mock closing for you.
Oh,
What's
okay.
involved in a mock closing? When you're shadowing the buyer's agent or the listing agent, ask them if they can go over a title commitment with you when they get it in on their property. Because knowing how to read a title commitment is important.
Okay.
Most of your title commitments are going to be pretty clean, but there's going to come a time when you get a title commitment that has tax liens, vendor liens,
M&M things.
has a unknown spouse lien that the person didn't tell you that they were married or that they were divorced, but now you have to get a divorce decree to see what that spouse gets when the house sells and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure that's
Know
crazy.
that if
They're going
you-
through divorce and you don't even know it. And
Yeah. Know that if you have a seller who's not married, but his girlfriend is living in the house, she may be required to sign a quitclaim deed when he sells that. If the seller purchased the home single, but is now married and he's selling the house, his new wife or partner, they do not have to sign a contract, the listing agreement, but they will have to sign documents at closing because they have lived in the house. So,
wait. So
because
he-
we're a community property state.
Isn't that after 2 years?
Mm-mm. Nope. It is, if he bought it single, he gets married, the day she starts living in that house,
Okay, that's true. Okay, so
Mhm.
but in if I buy property and girlfriend moves into that property,
Mhm.
it would be 2 years before it becomes property.
it may, on that instance. But you may wanna check with the title company. Because in the state of Texas, so our daughter lived with her boyfriend for 3 years before they got married. But within 6 months of them living with one another, they opened up a bank account together. They started sharing bills, started sharing payments. So the state of Texas actually recognized them as being common law because they had bank accounts together. They were on a lease together. So,
Wow.
yeah. So just know what those are. It may be 2 years for living on there if you're not married, but the day you do become married, even though she didn't purchase the home with you, if something were to happen to where y'all were to separate,
That wouldn't be that's within Texas, but properties that are purchased outside of Texas.
I don't know.
That
It would go on what the state law would be.
Right.
Yeah. So, as far as I know about that. But, but those are things that could come up. We had a buyer that she didn't tell us until the day before closing that, oh, by the way, she is still legally married. But her husband is in Fort Polk, Louisiana. She's buying a house here.
And he's deployed to
They
Haiti.
have not, they have not formally filed for divorce, but they're not going to ever get back together. He had to sign a quitclaim deed.
That just clears clouds on title,
Yeah.
right?
But because she just kept saying my ex. And I kept saying, oh, okay,
I had
so
to
you're,
sign a quick, or it's not sign a quick, my ex-wife had to sign a quick claim deed on my property in California.
right, So that she could say that when you do go to sell it, she cannot claim any part of the financial
Correct.
responsibility for it. And that's the same thing here.
It was a little scary though, because I found out almost 6 or 7 years later that her name was still on the HOA, and so I quickly got that fixed. I just wasn't paying attention, and I should pay more
Well,
attention.
I had a seller who, he got the house in the divorce, but the divorce decree stated that when he sold it, they split the funds up equally. His wife, ex-wife, then deployed to Africa, North Africa, and in the meantime, he's selling the house. Title company pulls the divorce decree, and it says that it's split equally. Well, they got to split a whole 57 cents equally. But title couldn't get a hold of her to confirm that she knew she was getting equal money. The way they were able to find her, because he had lost all contact with her. They went through Facebook, found her on Facebook, instant messaged her, and she said yes, and they said, well, you understand you're getting half of 57 cents, but it almost held up closing.
Wow.
And of course, my seller's like, to hell with it, I'll give her the 57 cents, I don't care, but the title company said no, based on what the divorce decree states, we
Right.
have to confirm with her that she knows that she's getting half of this. But those are things that when title commitments come in, that we need to be able to read them, we need to be able to talk to our sellers about them, or our buyers about them, and help them to understand. So ask an agent, or even in a mock closing that the title company does, say, can you go through the title commitment with me? So, there's a lot of moving pieces that really showing the house, writing the offer is pretty much the easiest part of the whole transaction. The negotiations, getting the deal under contract, and then moving forward, that's when the real work begins. But what your buyers and sellers see are just those initial things. They don't see everything that goes into it to get it closed.
If you had a couple sentences that you had to share with a for sale by owner as like a elevator pitch, if you will, at a grocery store, because you ran into one, how would you make yourself feel valuable? Why it's so important to have representation?
So,
Would you
if
talk
this
about the
is the
insurance?
first time that I'm ever talking to a for sale by owner about their property, I'm not actually
Gonna even answer that question.
I'm not going to talk to them about me listing their property. I'm going to talk about how I can help them sell it on their own, because they have their job that they go to on a daily basis. So Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, you have your job. My job is I list and sell properties for a living, but I understand you want to sell it on your own. So what I'm here to do is to help you market it, help you to understand the contract documents that you will need to use when the buyer does come to make the offer on your house. Plus, I'm going to show you how to follow up with all those buyers that are calling on your house who may or may not be qualified. And if I could help you to understand what you're going to need to do in order to get your house sold, would you be willing for me to come in and at least see your home and take a few pictures so I can help you market it to sell it on your own? If they say, okay, well, and Mr. and Mrs. for sale by owner, if I help you to sell the house on your own and by my own marketing efforts procure a buyer, would you be willing to pay my commission on the buyer's side? And from that standpoint, I'm not asking them to open up their wallet to me until I've done the job of helping them to sell their house on their own. The reason I would not want to come in and say, I want to list your home, is first of all, they don't see the value in using a realtor to list their home, because they think as a listing agent, all you do is put a sign in the yard, take a few photos, and it's actually the agent bringing the buyer who sells that home. So if I can show them up front that I'm willing to do those, and the only thing I'm gonna ask for is if I bring the buyer, would you pay me? Then I'm starting to build credibility, credibility, and value from the very beginning. If 30 days, 40 days, however many days go by and the house still hasn't sold, and they get tired of it, my goal is at that point that they would call me and say, you know what, we're tired of doing this on our own, would you come and list our home? At that point is when I'm gonna show them how I would price their home to get it sold. And statistics show that a for sale by owner will actually make more money by listing with an agent than they will by doing it on their own. Because in the buyer's mind, when a buyer seeks out a for sale by owner, they're doing it to cut that commission. Because they automatically know that they're not paying a commission. So they reduce what the for sale by owner has it listed for, minus the commission that they would have paid an agent. But I'm not going to tell that for sale by owner that in the very beginning. They're going to have in their mind that that's a ploy to get their listing. So when they do ask me to come and list the property, that's when I'm going to say, okay, I know you had it listed here, but from what we're looking at market-wise, we can actually list it here. I'll show you how you'll save that money. Even by paying the commission, you're still going to make more. In the market that we're in, you can do that. When the market starts to shift, well, first of all, you're going to see less and less for sale by owners. But also, it may become a little bit harder for you to increase the price of the home to offset those costs. But by the time a for sale by owner reaches you and says, come list my property, your commission is secondary to them getting the house sold. It doesn't matter at that point. When they first put it up for sale, your commission is everything, and they figured that they're saving that commission. For sale by owners will even list it less and say, look at our list price, it's less because we're not having to pay the commission. And where's the, if you can get more for the house, why would you do that? But in the for sale by owner's mind, as an agent, you're reaching into their back pocket to get their money from the very beginning. So that would be my elevator pitch to them, is I want to help you sell it on your own. Well, why would you do that? Because my hope is that through my marketing efforts of your home, that I would be able to glean the buyer that would want to purchase your home.
Right.
Yeah. So I do everything else that I would for a regular seller, except for give them what I would price the house for. And now you still, if that buyer comes in with an offer, you still have to let the seller know what the market value of their home would be, especially if you are the buyer yourself. But at the same time, you're not hired by them. You're hired by the buyer. So,
Yeah.
but for sale by owners, and you'll have some who will go, well, why would you market my home and not get paid the listing? Again, it's so that I can hopefully glean a buyer, and as far as I'm concerned, if that buyer didn't want to buy that house, but I was able to find them another house, why not? So you're offering them a service to help sell their home. So,
I like that approach.
yeah. And an expired seller, it's, do you want to know why your house failed to sell? And sometimes it was condition, most often it's price. But sometimes it could be that the agent just didn't do their job. So I bet you in this area, the expireds are becoming more and more prevalent. because of the market shift that we're seeing. On an expired, if you can be that second or third agent who picks up that expired, you're selling that expired. You're finally getting that seller to do what the first agent couldn't do. First agent may have said, you need to lower your price. You need to clean up your property. You need to do this, you need to offer this, but they weren't listening to the first agent. But that second, or if it makes it to the third agent, it's sold. I heard this said, I heard it put one time, you remember your first love, your second wife, and if you're the third realtor, you're getting the house sold. So, you know, but anyway, so that's, I know I kind of,
No, that's fine.
this one went a little,
What time is it?
it's 2:05.
Do you, think that you could maybe spend maybe 10 or 20 minutes, showing me the MLS and how to find these, properties
Yeah,
that I can view?
there we go. Let me pull up another. And so, is your membership with Austin Board or with
AA
CTX?
Board.
Okay.
I do wanna switch it over to, Wakeford, or however you pronounce Williamson
Oh, okay.
County.
So my only concern with that is that if you're a member of the Williamson County, are you gonna also keep your MLS with Austin?
Correct.
Okay, because Austin will give you the biggest variety of homes to be able to show. So, so with your expireds, if you come over here,
Sure.
so this is for the last 7 days, but what I would do, you could look at the last 7 days of expireds.
But you're saying come over here on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
No.
and you're fine right there too. So. Oh, sorry. Where did I increase the size of this?
Okay, I'm in.
Okay. So go over to your Market Watch.
Do I just access MS?
Oh,
Access?
yes. Access MLS. And then go over here to your matrix. Yep. Quickly. So I started with my husband. So, see right here where it says expireds? Do you
Right
have
here?
that? Uh-huh. So
There's
click on
4
that.
of them.
Yeah, so click on your expireds.
Okay.
And these are what have expired in the last 24 hours. do, if you'll scroll down to the bottom and, so click on one of the MLSs.
This one?
Sure.
I bet they've gotten hounded today with calls, right?
Probably. You scroll down to the bottom and you'll see where it says click on the arrow to view history.
History.
Yeah, just scroll.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And see where it says click on the arrow to view history.
Mm-hmm.
Click on that and that'll tell you, so if you look here, they listed it May 30th. They did a price reduction in August. They did another one in September, another one in October, or November. And it still failed to sell at 459,000. So they dropped it 30,000. Then what I do is I come over here and I look at the photos.
And you did that just by scrolling back up?
Yep. And
Okay.
just click on it. And in our area, in your area, I'll say, most of the agents take really good photos. Most of them use professional photographers. But what happened, because they've reduced this by 30 grand.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning, they were so overpriced that even if they got some showings, the agents were telling the buyers this is way overpriced. And as an agent, you begin to learn when a property is overpriced, it's overpriced for a couple of reasons. Either the seller bought it and they have to have this price in order to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They bought it overpriced, they refinanced it, they added a lot of stuff, or whatever it is. Or you have a seller who's really not motivated to move. I mean, $30,000 price drop, even in this price range, is still huge.
Mm-hmm.
If it had been priced right to begin with, you know, if they had started out at 459,000, it probably would have gone really
Mhm.
quickly. And maybe they could have gotten a few $1,000s over that. But if, let's see here also, did they have any,
Incentives?
yeah, and I need to see here, because they are out of San Antonio. But I don't know if this agent is
San
necessarily.
Antonio. I have access to all the way to the properties from San Antonio.
No, okay, so if you look here, this agent,
And how'd you get to that? Just by clicking Joey?
yes.
Okay.
So what you'll find is, especially in your area, some of these real estate companies are limited service brokerages.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just
No, no problem.
417. So what that means is that the seller is paying the listing brokerage 1%. And they're gonna pay a buyer's agent 3%. But those limited service brokerages, for that 1%, put it into the MLS and don't do much else. And they don't know the market, so they overprice. And they're not really doing the seller any service. And as an agent who would be looking at expireds, that might actually be a really good one to go for. Now, I think in here, so I guess that they don't make you put the seller's number in there anymore. They used to make you have to put the seller's telephone number in there, and it would be a really easy way. You check it against the DNC and then give them a call. But you are absolutely right in the fact that since they just expired yesterday, or today, so it was yesterday, they've probably received, even from this office, tons of calls. But what no one is doing is going to the front door
Right.
with a little packet. And
That's what I wanted to get an email from you. Just
So-
what should I include in that
Yeah.
packet?
I will do that. I will send that to you. But then, you know, you can look at these others and again, kind of Move Up America. Okay, so Move Up America is another discount brokerage.
So it looks like it was 3% though.
To the buyer's agent, yes.
Oh,
But
okay.
on the listing side, so we don't get to know what the listing agent charges the seller for their side, but
You can only assume that
yeah,
it's discounted.
but I can tell you Move Up America is another discount brokerage. And because even in this, in your market, 379,000, that's a great price for a home. But if we look at the history, so it did go under contract, but then it came back up on the market. They reduced it from 394 to 384. So all in all, they reduced it almost $15,000 from where they originally had it listed to when they reduced it again and then it expired. They've only got 7 photos. They're good photos, but when you're up on the internet and all you have are 7 photos of a home,
Mm-hmm.
you don't stay very long looking at it.
Right.
So,
It looks like it was staged.
also, so if you come back over to the home button, we had 43 that were withdrawn
But, right.
listings under that same area. Look at the withdrawns.
Drawn. Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
There were 43.
Now you have 43. I have 31.
Oh, you do? Huh.
Is that because I'm under residential?
No, I'm under residential as well. Let me refresh this. Are you under 24 hour?
It says today. Let me.
Oh, okay. So do the drop down and do 24 hours.
Drawn 43.
Yeah. So that's actually a really high number of withdrawals. That's
Oh, there's a $6 million property on there in the withdrawals. Did you see that?
no, I didn't.
All right, dude. It's,
Hold on, let me go back.
price nearly 6 million. 5,900,000. This one,
Wow.
you see it?
Yeah. And this one, it's Troll Haven.
Now they have 40 pictures.
Yeah. And it's in Austin.
It's beautiful.
So, withdrawals are something that you can also, you know, find out about. A lot of times the withdrawals may have been withdrawn because they have decided that they're no longer going to sell. Now, with some of the more expensive homes, the sellers and the buyers may require that it be withdrawn, even though it's sold. And if they did that, then you have to have in writing to send to the board to tell the board, my sellers and buyers did not want the list price being disclosed on the MLS. So they have in writing told us that we cannot disclose what it sold for and what the terms were. That way you're not fined. But so some of those ones that are higher price ranges may have been withdrawn, but actually sold.
Interesting.
But some of the ones that are withdrawn may have been withdrawn because they just, you know.
Because it says, it says, process, and it says closing funding?
Mhm.
What does that mean?
It just means that that's when possession takes place, is that funding.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, so this one says, do not call owners, still privately marketed on Austin Luxury Network. See listing on Austin Luxury Network. So, what they've done is they've withdrawn this one, but it's now on another website. So it's still active, but they've withdrawn it from the MLS.
Now, when it says do not call owners, and it doesn't violate the DNC, you don't want to call the owners still?
No, because if it's still actively being listed, even though it's showing withdrawn, then you are then violating your code of ethics by calling them. So, and this is really good, because what this agent knew is that the moment that they pulled it to, or they changed it to withdrawn, every single agent who follows the withdrawn list was going to be hitting those sellers up. And so that's why they put the note, do not call sellers. It's still being marketed. So when you're doing the expireds and the withdrawns, just make sure that you check that they have not been relisted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But that's basically, I mean, that's when we do expireds and for sale by, or withdrawns, that's where we look. For sale by owners, I go over to Zillow.
Right.
And you can draw a map or a circle around your area on Zillow.
Now, can Kelly give you some information as well?
Kelly, in what form? As far as
Contact information, or at least, I guess, can it give you for sale by owner information, like Zillow can?
I don't know. That's actually not a bad question. Let's see here.
Well, that's cool. So you can actually go further back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big advocate of the hammer calls.
Kelly, find for sale by owners in Bell County. That might be something that when they come on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
we could ask them if
That's a
there
good
was
question to ask, yeah.
Absolutely.
So what I'd be interested in is looking for sold, but how would I would just have to poke around until I found one that was vacant, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I would know that. Would I just have to basically call to find out if someone was living in the home? Call the agent?
Mm-hmm. Is that on a, oh yes. So what we want to do is we want to look for expired ones, or not, I'm sorry, vacant ones. So, I mean, just for example, if you were to pull one of these up and I don't think that you can search, but let's say this was these were all the homes in a subdivision that you
The
wanted
$10
to
million
look at.
one.
It would usually, y'all's MLS is a little bit different than ours. Trying to okay, so this one says it's occupied by the owner. That one's owner.
So it says vacant right here, right? So
Yes.
Occupant, vacant.
Yep. So you could schedule that one and just say, I'm just doing a preview. And again, that way the agent doesn't get their hopes up that you've got a bona fide buyer.
Mm-hmm. And then, so this is by an agent, a sub-agent. So they're offering a 1% for a sub-agent, who is just simply a facilitator.
Well, they're also only offering a 1% for the buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I'm sorry, the light, it looked like it was only 1%. But yeah, so sub-agent, if their broker subscribes to sub-agency, then they're willing to pay a sub-agent for 1%.
Just kind of walk me through that. I'm trying to
So a
understand.
sub-agent means that you do not have a written representation agreement with the buyer. So you are a sub-agent for the seller, which means you can help the buyer draw up the contract, but you can't advise him on what he should be offering. You can't advise him on the terms. If he says, well, what price do you think I should offer to them? You need to say, well, remember I represent the seller, so what price do you want to offer them?
Wow, so it's basically, you're very limited
Mhm.
at that point as a sub-agent. You're
But
just.
as a buyer's agent, you can advise, give them opinion
Mhm.
on everything, and that's why it's important for them to understand what it means for you to represent them versus acting as a sub-agent for the seller.
Wow.
So, but once you've built the rapport with people, most of the time that buyer representation agreement is no big deal.
Mhm. Mhm.
And quite frankly, if someone doesn't want us to represent them,
You don't want to
we
work with
don't.
them.
If they want to go out and see properties, but we have a buyer who says, hey, I want to go see properties at this time, and we represent them, we're putting that buyer ahead of them.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
yep. So there you go, and I will get you that email. Just making myself a note here. I'll email you bought for sale by owner and expired contract.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. This is vacant and not too far away.
Hopefully you got this official.
Yes. You have my email, right?
Yes, I do. In fact, I saved it in my phone. And so,
I even got my letter of good standings, so I could switch over. I just don't know really what I have to do for the MLS. So I probably have to show them a letter.
yeah, you'll send the letter to the Williamson County, and
Williamson
then
County.
just pay your fee.
And then in terms of MLS, do I have to do anything? Because it was like a package deal with Abor. It was like, does it include
Yes, so Austin Board's still gonna be your primary board. So you'll have your primary board with Austin Board and then your MLS. And then all you're gonna have over at Williamson County is the MLS, is that correct? Or are you switching your primary over to Williamson as well
I was gonna switch my primary and then keep the MLS
with Austin?
with Austin.
Okay, so then, yeah, okay, so then you'll pay whatever the board dues are at Williamson County. They'll take into consideration what you've already paid for this year. And, you know, dues are coming up for next year. So, you'll pay your dues to Williamson County and then your MLS, and then that'll be it.
And then MLS, I'll call a board.
So you'll have CTX MLS with Williamson County, and you'll have Actress
with
with Austin.
Austin.
Yes,
Got it.
because we have MLS with CTX and with Austin Board, but our CTX is through Fort Hood and Temple. We don't have it with Williamson County because they all are the same. But my primary board is Temple Belton, my husband's is Fort Hood, and then he has MLS with Austin. So, but anyway, but look for the expired and for sale by owners by tomorrow, and I'll get that. And then, you know, like I said, if you want to shadow any one of us, or even just ask someone in the office, or ask Scott, say who would be someone who wouldn't mind if I shadowed them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great,
Yeah, absolutely.
great stuff that I can build off of.
Yeah. So, and you've got my card, so if you have questions,
Do I have your group card?
it's that one.
Okay.
Still need to update ones.
How's the other lady doing? Her name, she was in with me. She's like 45 minutes away.
In that other class that we were, the first one, Kristen told me yesterday that she went to a brokerage in general.
Oh, okay.
Marissa was her name? Is it Marissa?
Yes, I wasn't sure. I know it was far for her to travel here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she's in Bell County as well. I think she's in Temple Belton. And there she had a small firm in general.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah. No, since the last company I was with, we were there for 16 years. Being here is night and day. I mean, just let alone the support that's here. So,
No, I gravitated towards this area. Just it felt more like a family vibe than anything. I mean,
that's what, because you were with the Southwest office?
Northwest.
Northwest, okay.
yeah,
That's a huge, how many people are in your office?
almost 500.
So you're just a number at that point.
Right, exactly. And I started fresh out of the gates on a team, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And after, 4 or 5 meetings with the team, I felt comfortable to move forward. They felt comfortable to move forward. And day one, there was just so much negativity coming from one individual that just, wait a minute, you had this bubbly face on during our interactions and everything, and then he was just like full of this negative energy. I'm someone that likes to build off of positive
Yeah.
energy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to try to build him up when I'm trying to build myself up.
Not your job.
Right? So I felt like I had to be supportive and everything, and I don't know, it planted a seed that I could get out of my system, and I was kind of at a roadblock there. So I gave it a week, and this is not for me.
The breakthroughbroker.com.
The breaker,
Yep.
broker, right?
It's all free and then most free stuff.
Yes.
So, okay, have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you so much.